Welcome back to the SSLFamilyDad channel. Today we're going to dig into some furnace issues. So there's a lot of common things that can go wrong with a modern furnace. So any of your 90+% furnaces, that would be basically if you look at your furnace and it has a PVC pipe venting exhaust and intake vent, then it's most likely a 90+% efficiency furnace or a more modern furnace. So, and they have some pretty common components. And so our furnace has stopped working a couple days ago, and so I've ordered some parts to get this thing back up and running. And so I figured I'd take you guys through just kind of basic troubleshooting. This is kind of DIY stuff that, you know, if you're even remotely comfortable with this kind of stuff, you could probably figure out. And so I'll take you through just a couple, just kind of how the basic system works. It'll give you an idea. It's actually a lot less complicated than it might seem. And there's a few sensors in here that can generally go bad that can cause your furnace to not light. So, or you know, you're not going to have any heat. And so if your furnace isn't working, this might help you to identify the problem and order the parts and get it fixed yourself. Save yourself a lot of money. Okay, so I've got an older Train furnace here. I'm not sure exactly what year it is, but this is what we use as our example. So we have our PVC vent here. This one actually has an open intake, so it actually intakes from the fresh air, comes into the burn chamber from the room. This is our burn chamber here. This is where the burners are, and there's a couple sensors and things like that we'll talk about. We got our gas valve, we have our induced draft motor, and our pressure switch here. And then down below is the actual blower. Now in this one, there's a little sight hole right here. And so the first thing that you want to check is, you'll see in here, I have it turned off right now, but if your furnace is not running, so you'll hear it maybe kick on and then kick off or whatever, you're not getting heat, after a while it will usually trigger off or it will trigger into just a blower mode. And this right here will give you a blinking light. And so you'll see that light blinking in there. It flashes a trouble code, which you can look up, and it will tell you exactly which sensor. Once you know which sensor is failing, what trouble code you have, it'll help you to identify. In most cases, it's pretty simple to identify what's wrong. So what's going to happen here, I'll flip this on here in just a minute. I'll show you the problem that I'm having. But so the first thing that's going to happen is the induced draft motor is going to kick on. This will induce a draft in the exhaust pipe. So it's the blower will turn on, and it just starts blowing air out of the exhaust vent there. This has to obviously be running. Another thing that can go wrong in that process, this is actually a pressure sensor also that is in there, and it will sense pressure in the burn chamber. If there's a leak, if there's a hole in the heat exchanger, if there's a clog, if something's backed up or anything like that, this pressure sensor here can also switch. This has a range that it needs to operate in, and so that will could be a problem also, and that can be something that you could need to replace. So if there's a trouble code related to your draft system, that's kind of the major components of that. If you're getting past this point where the blower comes on, the next thing that's going to happen is your burners are going to light. So let's take the cover off of this so we can see inside a little bit better with the camera here. And there's two components or three components in there that we'll need to check out in order for the burners to light. And so if you're not getting flame, you're not getting anything lighting, this is probably where your problem lies. Generally, just a couple sheet metal screws here that we'll take out. Okay, so inside here there's three kind of main components. You have a hot surface igniter back there, so that's sticking up in front of the burners. The burners are these little tubes here. So gas comes in through this tube, shoots through here, mixes with air, and then the hot surface igniter will light up and glow. So that's the next thing that you should see, and that will light the burners on fire. There's some spreaders in there and they'll all light. At that point, there is a flame sensor right here. That is a little piece of metal that sticks in front of one of those burners, and that senses a flame. If there's no flame, meaning if it didn't light, then it will, after a few seconds, it'll shut the gas off, so you're not just blowing gas in there. And so one thing you want to look for at this phase is you want to look for the glow of that hot surface igniter. If you don't see any glow, then you have a bad hot surface igniter. If it does light, but after a few seconds it shuts off, then you have a bad flame sensor most likely. And so that is another cheap part that can be replaced. Another thing that can happen is if you get a clog somewhere in your heat exchanger or in the vent or something like that, you can get what's called rollout, which means flames roll out into here. And there's also a sensor here for that. If this senses flames rolling out in here, it'll shut everything off also. And then you've got another problem. You've got something clogged or something like that going on. Sometimes this sensor could also go bad, and that would be a trouble code that you would get, and that would tell you what the problem is there. If your furnace gets past to this point, if it's burners are all running and it fires up for a little while, what's going to happen next is it's going to sense the temperature of the heat exchanger. So this is actually what's called a limit. Generally, it has a low and a high. There's usually a low and a high limit. Some of them are combined into one sensor, some of them are separate. But the low sensor, basically, once it gets up to a certain temperature, then the main blower will kick on and it will heat your home. If it overheats, meaning again, if there's a clog or if your blower isn't working right or something like that, it's not taking the heat off of those, the pipes in there, it gets too hot, has a high limit, and that will also shut off. So if your furnace runs for a while, then shuts off, then you might have a blower issue. Maybe something's wrong there. Sometimes the limit itself can go bad and it's not sensing that there's any temperature, and so the blower never comes on, and then other things can happen with that. So trouble code will tell you if that sensor is bad. Usually the limit sensor is going to be bolted right onto the somewhere on the back side of this little compartment here. So let's put this cover back on, and I'm going to turn ours on. I'll show you what's going on with ours, and then we're going to get it fixed and see if it runs for us. So I'm going to turn the power back on, and then we're going to watch what happens. Okay, so you can hear the induced draft motor started, so that's inducing the draft. And then I'm going to look in here, you should see a glow. I heard the gas valve come on, and then I heard it shut off. And so we have no hot surface igniter in there, so we didn't see anything light up in here, and that's the problem that we're having. So no hot surface igniter means no flame, and the flame sensor didn't sense any flame, and so the gas valve shut off. Now this will run for another 30 seconds or a minute or so to clear out any gas that got sprayed into the heat exchanger, make sure that's all cleared out of there, and then it'll try again. It'll keep trying, and that's what ours has been doing. And then eventually it gives up and shuts off, and then the trouble code will start to flash. All right, so let's get this hot surface igniter replaced. And I'm also going to replace the flame sensor in this video. I bought both parts just because I was also having some previous trouble with the flame sensor. So in this case, it sits on a bracket. There's a couple 1/4-inch hex screws here we'll take out. So here is our hot surface igniter and the bracket that it fits on. So I ordered these parts on Amazon. I always order everything on Amazon as long as I can find it there, just because the shipping is good and it's reliable and prices are always the cheapest. So, but what I did for this part to find this part was I just went online and did a search for the model number of this furnace, and then I typed in hot surface igniter. I found a parts chart that on a couple different sites that listed this part number, and then I just looked it up on Amazon. Obviously don't need to say this, but make sure that you turn the power off to your furnace before you work on it. So one thing to note with the hot surface igniter is that it is a very sensitive part. You don't want to touch it with your fingers to get any of the oils from your fingers on it, because it can actually cause it to have a hot spot on it, which will burn it out quicker. So this did come with a new bracket. Maybe we'll just use a new bracket, why not? While I'm in here, I'll take a vacuum also and just clean out some of this debris that's in here. Plugs are the same, it looks like they are, and the length of the hot surface igniter is the same, or at least close, and so it looks like this is going to work just fine. It only goes in one way, which is nice. So the flame sensor is right over here. I'm also going to pull that out and replace that as well. And that's what it looks like. They can get kind of some soot buildup on here, and so yeah, a lot of times you can just clean these off, just sand that off a little bit, and then it'll work again. But they're cheap, so I just put a new one in. Alright, so let's get it fired back up here and see if everything works. So there's the hot surface igniter now, it is working. So you see that lighting up, and then we should see some flames in here if I can, in just a moment. Gas valve should come on here. There we go. See some flames. So now we can see all the Burners are fired, and they're staying lit, so that means the flame sensor is working. And so as soon as it gets that heat exchanger up to temperature, our limit switch will trip and the blower will come on, and we have heat. Well, it'll be nice to have heat again in the house. We've been heating with wood stoves here for the last couple days, and it's getting pretty cold. I think it's going to be like 5 degrees tonight, so it'll be nice to have this running. There are obviously lots of other things that can go wrong with the furnace, but these are some of the simple things. These are some of the most common things that happen. And so between the trouble code on the furnace itself, will usually tell you exactly what's going on, at least give you some hints. And if you kind of understand the checks that it goes through as the furnace starts up, you can usually just watch what happens and kind of see what the problem is. And so you can use a little bit of logic to help to figure that out. So obviously, if you're not comfortable getting in your furnace, you want to make sure you're dealing with gas, you're dealing with fire, you're dealing with electricity and stuff. Make sure that you're comfortable doing that. Make sure you shut the power off to the furnace before you dig in anything. And if you start feeling comfortable with it, just stop and call somebody out. Have a professional come out and take a look at it. So, but hopefully this helps you guys out for those of you who are just maybe want to learn a little bit more about a furnace, or maybe are having some trouble with your furnace at home, and you want to take a look at it yourself and save yourself some money. You can certainly save a lot of money by doing some of these things yourself. And some of the stuff is pretty straightforward and pretty simple. Ordering the parts on Amazon has been a lifesaver for me. I order extra, it's in my order history, and so if this ever happens again in a few years, I can go back and say what part did I order. I can just reorder it. I really like doing stuff that way. I'll put a link in the description to the parts that I ordered here for this particular furnace, and that can get you started over on Amazon, at least looking for the parts that work for you. And so if you guys have questions about anything, let me know. We'll throw that stuff down in the comments. Of course, hit thumbs up on the video. Love to hear from you guys. If you have questions, comments, or anything to add that I missed, or if anything that you would have done differently, I'd love to hear from you guys. Comment, throw that stuff down below. That's good for everybody to hear. Don't forget to hit thumbs up on today's video, of course. And if it's your first time here, love to have you subscribe to the SSL Family Dad channel. We do lots of DIY projects, and we get into all kinds of sustainable living and homesteading and gardening and things as well. So love to have you tag along for those things. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one.